The Belonging Place: The 5 Stages Towards Creating an Interdependent Community by Janelle Dill. Circle C 2018, No Shrieking Violet, all rights reserved. Stage 3: Obstacles and Barriers: Seeing the problems that stand in the way of progress. It is possible to convey a wrong impression by repeating the exact words of someone else, to convey a lie by speaking the truth. Oswald Chambers, Our Ultimate Refuge. I may be disabled physically, but I can still work. Inam Shaliati, telecare volunteer in Kentucky. I had a major problem. In class, I couldn't concentrate on the coursework or lecture. I would sit through a class, but miss out on most of the material. I had no notes. I had to ask friends for copies of their notes. It didn't happen with every course. Some classes I simply understood better than others, like my political science course. Even there, I struggled with the professor's teaching method. He would put you on the spot to see if you were paying attention. I always felt embarrassed and ashamed because of my lack of answers made it look like I wasn't listening. I always hoped the professor would not call on me. He knew the nature of my disability, but I knew I was still fair game on answering his questions. My professor was not a cruel person, nor was I asking to be treated like a snowflake. I am simply saying I had a big learning obstacle to overcome. I have simple frontal focal seizures. I look like I am daydreaming, but the truth is I am having a seizure. It happens so fast, like the blink of an eye. I knew I had a disadvantage. My brain had trouble focusing on classwork. I didn't want my seizures to excuse me from passing my classes. I didn't want to be excluded from participating in class. I needed a note taker to aid in my class time. In order to apply for a new note taker, I had to undergo testing, a psychological evaluation to determine the strengths and weaknesses in how I process information. My previous neurologist wasn't exactly sure how my brain was affected by my epilepsy. He agreed that I needed to examine my brain's motor skills. This testing pushed me to my limits. If you ever get testing done, do not do it after taking midterms. You will sound like a jittery, unstable mess. That must have been what my psychiatrist thought as he gave me the exam. He had me undergo a series of rigorous tests, and I had trouble with a few of them. Admittedly, I am not a huge fan of IQ tests. They are difficult and can make you seem like an imbecile or mentally unstable. In the end, he determined that I did indeed need a note taker. In addition to the psychological tests, I also had to send in documentation about my disability. Getting proper documentation is no easy feat. You have to apply and make sure the paperwork is sent correctly, as well as have a neurologist confirm your diagnosis. At that time, I had no neurologist. My neurologist had left, so it was a nurse practitioner that prescribed treatments for me. It was a disaster. I had to send in paperwork 3 times to get it authenticated by the psychologist who gave me the testing. Finally, after 3 weeks, I got the green light for accommodating my problems in the classroom. In 2 Kings 7, 3 through 11, the author paints a devastating picture. 4 lepers residing outside their community. Lepers were social outcasts. If a leper were to step into a community, those who came into contact with him would be considered unclean. The Lord, lo, does an incredible thing. He speaks through Elisha the prophet about delivering the people of Judah from their enemies. He sends them out by scaring them. Lepers go into enemy territory the next morning, and when these lepers came to the edge of camp, they went into a tent and ate and drank. They see a bounty of food, money, and resources. The lepers decide to share this good news with the people of their homeland rather than hoarding it to themselves. Doesn't it seem strange to you that lepers of any group of people were used by God to deliver the news that the Syrians had left? If you were a citizen at the time, you would probably find it strange. In 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 4 through 14, I recall the story of Elijah, Elisha's mentor. Elijah had just finished challenging the priests of Baal to a standoff, successfully proving that the God of Judah was the true God with a blaze of fire that consumed the altar of Baal. Queen Jezebel was furious and sent the men out to kill him. Elijah ran away and hid, first under a broom tree, then walking 40 days into a cave far from Jezebel's clutches. Imagine doing something so powerful in the name of God and then having to run for your life. That would spoil your day, wouldn't it? Elijah became terrified and had an anxiety attack. He complained to God in verse 14 about being very zealous for the Lord, the God of hosts, and I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. But God reassured him of 7,000 faithful men who didn't bow to Baal set aside to assist him. That's the problem with anxiety attacks. Anxiety and fear can blow a situation out of proportion. It isolates us in our caves, distorting the truth of God and highlighting the harshness of our circumstances. Elijah did eventually leave his cave and return to his hometown. He couldn't stay in his cave forever. He had to face his problem head on. In the third phase, the disabled community faces a critical decision. Will it play victim to the obstacles, or will it be a victor over the obstacles? The difference between these two positions is about a person's outlook. The victim sees the obstacle, impossible, impenetrable, and impassable. The victim allows himself to be defined by the obstacle. Victims create barriers to keep others out. The victim becomes defeatist, thinking, I am the only one with this problem. No one understands what I am going through. A victim can sink into depression and can become vindictive. A victor is the exact opposite. A victor seeks possibilities and fights to improve situations. Victors break down barriers to let people in. A victor never stops learning but keeps rising above adversity. A victor says, I can do this. I am not alone. There is hope and help available. A victor may stumble and fall but will always rise again. What barriers or obstacles are in your way? Are they self-made or are they formed by your environment? What steps can you take to help yourself move forward? Not every solution will work. Sometimes they take time and effort. It took 75 years for the first public vehicle to be accessible to everyone. It took 80 years for the first building to have handicap accessibility. If you feel like you've reached an impasse, don't lose heart. You are not alone. You are in good company with others who have hit the desert. Keep fighting and don't give up. Don't become a victim to your circumstances. Be a victor in the midst of them. Activity 3. Breaking barriers. Now we are going to break some barriers and face some obstacles. Split into groups of 2 and give out some disabilities. Blindness, not using one arm, has a migraine, epilepsy. If one of the people in the group has a real-life disability, use that instead of one given by the leader. The disabled person must work with their partner to figure out how to be taken to a doctor's appointment. If someone who has a migraine needs to exit a room that has strobe lights or find a way to communicate their needs. After a few minutes, have them switch roles. Some of you will find this task extremely difficult, but I hope it challenges you to get creative and experience the world of those with a disability. For those with a disability or those assigned one, how did it feel to be disabled? Did you find it easy or difficult to communicate your needs to your partner? For those of you in the role of caretaker, did you find it easy or difficult to accommodate their needs? Were you able to communicate with your partner? How easy or difficult was it to work together? Why or why not? What did you learn from each other? Films for discussion viewing. Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Phantom of the Opera, or Hunchback of Notre Dame. And a year. Miracle Worker, Forrest Gump, Tiny Tim and Christmas Carol, Soul Surfer. Examine the film. How does it add to or take away from our perceptions of those with a disability? Spotlight. Enam Shaliati, Telecare Volunteer Elder Service, Incorporated, Louisville, Kentucky. I know what it's like to need some help as a kid, and it gives me great joy to help others. Enam Shaliati. Enam Shaliati was born blind and diagnosed with cerebral palsy at 6 months old. Her home country, Syria, considered her cursed because of her birth defects, so her family moved to the United States when she was young to give her better opportunities. Since then, Enam has helped others in the Jefferson County community. She has won numerous volunteer awards, including the Bell Award in 1999 and Hidden Heroes Award in 2013. She's helped with Radio Eye, a radio service program for those who are visually impaired or blind. She taught blind students in JCPS in Louisville, Kentucky, and has volunteered with Make-A-Wish Foundation and the local cerebral palsy organization. Over the years, Shaliati has lost many of her abilities and can no longer work long hours. She took up Telecare, a non-profit service to help people with disabilities age 50 and older to get living assistance over the phone as a way to support and stay connected with others. Enam offers some encouraging advice to those who have a disability. Be grateful for what you can do. Be open-minded to choosing other paths. Do what works best with your limitations, not solely in what you want to do. It is better than doing nothing. Ask what can be done. It is okay to do your best and try. You are given this one body. Handle it with care. It is okay to have a bad day. Don't be sad or angry all the time. Enam offers further insight for those who want to connect better with the disabled but don't know where to begin. If you see a disability, ask, Don't stare or think that person needs your help. If that person needs assistance, they will ask for it. Get positive with what they have and focus on what they can do. A noun loves helping others with disabilities that are unable to care for themselves. She is both a passionate and compassionate person. Her voice vibrates with the boundless energy of her incredibly active schedule. You can find out more about the work she does in the additional resources information section of the appendix. Read by Janelle Dill.